Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast, sponsored by the IBCA. We are a global podcast that shares the passion for the coaching profession. You will hear the stories of coaches from all around the world. We are covering the profession in game, outside of the game, and anything in between. As always, thank you for listening. We look forward to sharing the coaches' stories with you.
We are back after a little break here with another episode of the After the Timeout podcast. Today's guest is Jason Welch, head boys basketball coach at Bloomington Central Catholic. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, and it's really an honor to be here. I want to let you know I've got to listen to this podcast many times, and have an opportunity to be here, it's really an honor.
Well, John, at least we know we have one listener. We have one listener. Um, so we're on a roll. So we like to start every episode letting our listeners get a little background on your journey, your program, kind of where you started, how you got to where you are, and then, tell us about your team this year or how you built it up to where you had so much success. And just letting our listeners know kind of who you are.
Yeah. So I grew up in a small rural town called Philo. We called it Center of the Universe. It's right there on the water tower, and went to a high school called Tolono Unity. Played basketball for a guy named Craig Voigt. Coach Voigt was actually in my wedding after high school. We became good friends after high school. My mom and dad owned a mechanical contracting firm. I got into that with estimating and project managing. We did industrial and commercial HVAC and plumbing. It was something I thought I was going to do for my entire life. When I went down to Eastern Illinois, I met some wonderful friends from St. Joseph Ogden. St. Joe and Unity get together. They get along like oil and water. And those were the people I met first. And I thought, boy, this won't go well. Those guys became my lifelong friends. And there was a guy that I met at a wedding. His name was Randy Wolkin at St. Joseph Ogden High School. He's a Hall of Famer in the IBCA. And he has the all-time most wins in softball in the state of Illinois. And he asked me, he says, hey, would you like to help me do some coaching at this wedding? And I said, absolutely not. I mean, I don't like high school kids. There's no way. And anyway, long story short, come about November, it was like the first week, I get a fax from Randy. This is how long ago the fax comes across. And he's like, kids don't even know what fax machines are. Hey, I could really use some help with some big men. My dad was like, hey, you need to get out of the office. So I'm gonna give it a shot. And so I just on a whim went there, and it was euphoric. I had never done something like that. Those 2 hours went by like that. I mean, it was quick. And from that point on, it was something that changed my life. I think over 30 years, I've missed 7 practices and one game, and 5 of those were for my honeymoon. It has been something that has been a labor of love. Long story short, my wife was very supportive, knew it was something I loved. She's like, you should go back to school and see if you can get your teaching certificate. So I committed financial suicide. I went back and went and got my teaching certificate at age 30 with a 1-year-old son, and had to rub elbows with 18-year-olds down at Eastern Illinois for 2 full years. We were in a really nice situation. We ended up transitioning to a dump of a house with a very supportive wife of mine, and got my teaching certificate. At that point, I was coaching at a small rural community. It was awesome, Villa Grove High School, and transitioned into basketball. It was the best thing I'd ever done in my life, and having a supportive family, and it wouldn't have ever happened without that. So my journey was a little non-traditional, to say the very least. I was in a position of of nowhere that was nowhere in my thought process 30 years ago. And one practice and one encounter with one person changed everything that I really wanted to do. And it's still to this day, I get goosebumps walking in to that gym. And there's not a day that goes by that it isn't something I just love.
So, first of all, Todd and I have fully committed financial suicide, so we're right there with you. We wanted to first talk about your Villa Grove experience.
Yeah.
You know, I remember my first year as a head coach. I know Todd remembers his first year as a head coach. There's a lot going on. So I'm curious, what did you learn about yourself as a coach? And maybe what were some of those lessons you learned that when you went over to Bloomington Central, you were like, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to change this. What were some things you learned about your own self in that experience?
Well, I would back up just a little bit. When I was at St. Joe Ogden, having that opportunity to coach with Coach Walken for 7 years, I learned a lot. He was a meticulous teacher, educator, and coach, and so I didn't know anything, but I assume that's how everyone was. And so he showed me a lot of things that I was able to just gather, and then what I did is I made it into my own. When I got to Villa Grove, we had great kids. Not every one of them could play basketball. We had kids that had trouble catching it and passing it and stuff like that. So we had to find out different ways to be competitive. And it was the best experience, one of the best experiences I'd ever had. I had a supportive administration. Noreen Acton, she is still there. Um, we were a very small rural school, so you learned a lot about yourself. You learned how to teach kids that maybe basketball wasn't their primary sport. They just kind of came out, and you got to put a lot of passion into it. What I found immediately is I didn't know very much, and I needed to get more organized. I needed to be more specific with the kids in my teaching. So I learned a lot about myself, and those years were valuable and made it better for me down the road.
So you mentioned that you're a member of the IBCA. You know, great organization, but in your opinion, what makes organizations like this in any state so important? Um, for coaches, and then kind of what made you want to join and be part of it?
Well, IBCA, Illinois Basketball Coaches Association, is really important. It's a great way of networking. I know I met so many coaches through the IBCA. I still remember Tim Meese. He sits there in the front row with a notepad taking notes on every speaker. And I watched Tim do that over and over. He just is and Tim was at Eureka for a long time. I don't know how many years, but a while. And to see and watch older coaches and how serious they take it, and how uh, they're still trying to learn and take notes, and get different opinions from different coaches. Really, the guys at the IBCA are the people that we should be closest to, and it's my peers across the state. They know exactly what we're all going through, and they can feel our pain while we want to beat each other on Fridays and Tuesdays and Saturdays. Those are the people that really we care about the most. I mean, Chad Benedict, who's now at Muhammad, the principal, Jarrett Brown in the state of Illinois. With those guys have done a lot, and those, while I want to beat them on Tuesday and Friday nights, we were able to connect and learn a lot about the game. We talk about our situation, they would talk about theirs, and to be honest with you, having people that you can bounce different ideas off, that's really important.
So I want to go into now your Bloomington Central Catholic experience. And I think this is very unique. We don't get to ask our guests this a lot, Coach, I'll be honest. So it's a credit to you and your program and your kids and your staff. But you've played for 2 state championships. I'm always curious to dig into these, and I'm going to dig in maybe in a couple parts here. First of all, what kind of made each one of those kind of experiences a little bit different, and what kind of made each one of them the same, and then I'll go into a second part.
Well, I mean, what happened with both those are very unique. The road to success isn't straight. And there's ups and downs in both those seasons. Nothing easy. Matter of fact, you would think, oh boy, that was smooth sailing. With our schedule, it wasn't. We had tasted our blood many times. Um, so I would encourage and tell coaches that if it's not going straight right now, it doesn't mean anything. The reality is we have more state trophies than we do State Farm Holiday Classic trophies. Um, uh, that was very similar in both of those scenarios. I don't know if we were rated in the state either one of those years we played for the state title. Um, we caught lightning in a bottle. I don't listen to a lot of the noise out there, so it doesn't bother me. I'm just trying to get my team better every every day. Focus on my kids and our unique situations. And I would say that was the same both of those times that we went there. What made it unique? It was two different venues, so that was different. So I got to see Peoria and I got to see Champaign, two completely different venues. Um, the past had nothing to do with the future, and that was the case both times that we went to the state tournament. The teams that had handled us in the regular season, they didn't in the postseason. Um, and I think that we are just too that many times coaches are too focused on the long term and not really the short term. And so I'm present where I am right now, and where we go in the future um, will be dictated in the future. I'm focused on, well, what can I do to prepare for tomorrow? We have big games tomorrow, and what can I do, and how do I get moving our needle moving forward each and every day, just a little bit, and that's important to me. But in terms of those teams, there were special coaches, special kids, and it was not easy the whole time. It was hard. We had stuff every day, and we just tried to get better every day.
So I want to build on that. So take us through, because not not a lot of coaches get to experience this week, but take us through. And we asked this to one other guest, but I found it interesting, so I wanted to follow up with you. You know that time between the super sectional win and going downstate. I'm sure that's a whirlwind.
Mm.
Take us through that few days of the super sectional. I'm sure was on Monday evening. You win the game, and now you're getting ready for you. Obviously, it's not as far as maybe some other people have to travel, but kind of just take us through that week and how you organize and how you make sure your team's also prepared, by the way.
Yeah, so that is a unique time. One thing I'm going to tell you, I hope that every coach, I know it won't happen, but I hope every coach has that opportunity to feel that. It's euphoric. Um, Really, a lot of the pressure comes off you. And both times, the pressure almost completely went off my shoulders. I didn't feel any pressure either one of those times. My administration was fantastic. I had a great athletic director and a great building principal. And what happened was they did most of the organizing for me. I think you have to know what you're good at. And being able to hand some of that stuff off, like hotel rooms, who's making sure that um, those hotel rooms are being watched, making sure you know where your meetings are going to be, what time you need to be there, making sure that you kind of give that work to somebody else so that you can focus on the task at hand. So having good support, administration, assistant coaches that can do some of those things for you so you can do what you do well is important. If you have to do that all by yourself, you're in big trouble, in my opinion. And so in my case, I give a lot of credit to our administration, my assistant coaches. They knew what I was good at, and they knew what my weaknesses were. And organizing some of that stuff, that's not my strength. And so having that really helped. And like I said, we weren't satisfied. We were able to utilize many overnight experiences in both those cases where we didn't play very well, um, going overnight. And I told our kids, I said, I'm okay with it. You let me know. Are we just going on a vacation here and we're just happy to be there? Or are we trying to compete? Because the reality is I could tell them, hey, you basically stayed up all night in a hotel room when we went in the summer and we didn't play very good the next day. So if you're doing that, just let me know so I can enjoy my time here. And or are we going there to get some work done and help draw their attention, like, hey, we got to get sleep. We got to treat this as yeah, we want to enjoy it, but we've had some flaws last time we did that. So I guess what I would tell you is both those times I had great support with my principal, my athletic director, and my assistant coaches. They were able to organize the things that really needed to get organized. So I didn't worry about any of that. I worried about none of it. All I worried about was, hey, our next opponent and when we need to be at the gym. The rest of it was taken care of for me.
So, now you won a state championship, right? Now let's talk
Yes.
about the season after that.
Yeah.
Um, what was that off season like for you as coaches and then for your players? Okay, we'll start with that and then I'll kind of piece together some more after that.
Okay. So the year after that, we had a really good team. We actually went to super sectional that year. We graduated a bunch of seniors, but the juniors we had were really uh, two guys were uh, key in our starting lineup. We had two guys that played a lot of minutes, and then we had another class at a sophomore class that was strong. Matter of fact, they all played. One kid went to the Final Four for Loyola. John Rave now plays for the Royals, and I had another kid that played baseball at ISU, Jacob Gilmore, and he was a lefty, and he did just a great job. But our kids saw that success, and they were hungry. They were blue collar type of kids, and they would fight you. And so our kids had an expectation. Hey, it wasn't just going to be that other group. And we're going to put our marks on it somehow, some way too. And they did a great job. I will tell you this though, for me, um, it was emotional because you get to see what the state tournament was all about. And so it, you know, I was younger then, obviously it was about 11 or 12 years ago. And it was like, man, do I want to do that? Because that it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. And, you feel like you're at the pinnacle of it. And all of a sudden, here we are, we got to start all over. And is this something that I want to do again? Is this something that, can I get fired up about, a normal Tuesday night game, because there's a big difference. And I had to find that in myself a little bit. I will say that's the first time I think I've ever said that, but I had to find that. Did I want to do it? What was my why? Why did I want to do it? And shape young men, make them better people. I came back to my why. And because it is intoxicating getting into that state tournament series and making those runs. And that's not your real why. That isn't. There's plenty of coaches that could do a great job out there. And your why is, can you shape them into being better people? I know it's kind of cliche and people say that, but that's my why. And if we're fortunate enough to win some games in the state tournament series, wonderful. But at the end of the day, it's about the relationships with the kids. So that was my why. To find that the year after was really important to me, and it stayed with me.
So I guess I'll tweak this second part a little bit because you talked about your kids being blue collar and they're really motivated to kind of put their own stamp on it. So I'll tweak it to how did you kind of work it to where, maybe we can't do the same things we did last year. We have a different team, we have different players, so maybe we might have to do this. And them saying, "Well, coach, this is what we did last year. It worked. We won a state championship, right?" And kind of fight against maybe a little bit of complacency with hey, this worked, but we're gonna do these things with this team.
Right. I mean, so you bring up a good point. In high school basketball, and everybody knows this, each team's unique. I love high-low. Bill Self's high-low is great, but I'll tell you what, I don't know if I've ever had to be able to run a high-low possession in my whole coaching career. I don't know if we've ever had a guy over 6'3". Okay, so I love high-low. I wish we could run it. I've never run one set of it. And so your point's well taken. Um, we're a different group, and a different group means that we need to make adjustments on how we play. What do they do well? And I'll be honest, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. It takes me a while to figure out what they're good at. It takes me a while to figure out, hey, what can we do to make this team the most competitive, and what do they do well? And then we hone in on those things, and it takes me some time to figure out what is that. Part of it is our schedule. Our schedule's challenging. We play in our city. You're going to play normal community in Bloomington and U-High and Normal West, your first 4 games. So you're fighting for your life. And so it takes me a while. So to get back to that is, it sometimes took me a while to figure out what they were going to be good at. And once I did, I could hone in on our practice. Now, what I would say is this: nothing changed in terms of our expectation levels. Are they're going to work as hard as they can every day? Are you going to be a little bit early, and are you staying a little bit late? Do you know what it feels like to really compete? And we do that in practice each and every day. And those standards never change. While Nick Norton wasn't there anymore, that didn't change for Jake Reinhardt or John Rave or Braxton Kaufman and those guys the year after. Those things stayed the same. How we did it may have been different, our offensive scheme, our defensive scheme, but the culture in itself of our day-to-day expectations always remained.
So I want to pivot a little bit, and this is a question that a lot of our listeners have given us feedback that they enjoy. And I know former guest Sean Connor of Antioch, shout out. He really likes when we ask this question as well. So when you were getting ready to, you're an assistant and you're looking, there's jobs out there, and people reach out, or you reach out to them, or I'm sure even now that you've won a couple state trophies, there's people that have been interested in your coach, or even when you went to Bloomington Central Catholic. So, when you're going through the process of getting a new job, or interviewing for a new job, or considering a new job, what are the things you look for? Because, Todd and I, we both think we have learned, when you're a young coach, you think they're really interviewing you, but, you're also interviewing them. So what are some things you looked for or look for in a potential job?
Okay. Well, a couple things. I've had some opportunities to move on and for me, this is home. You've heard the old adage that the grass isn't always greener. It's just different grass. Um, so for me, Bloomington Central Catholic was a perfect fit for me for many reasons. And yeah, I think it does well people want to interview for a different position or something of that nature. It can actually help you understand, hey, what I currently am in, the situation that I am and is really a good situation. So it could be an eye opener for you. When I transitioned from Villa Grove to Bloomington Central Catholic, there wasn't a teaching job at Villa Grove, so my stipend wasn't going to pay the bills. Central Catholic, when it came open, was just a wonderful thing in terms of not just the coaching, but I'll give them a shout out. I was a creaster a little bit. I went to church on Christmas and Easter, and I was non-Catholic. It changed me, and I'm far closer to Jesus Christ today than I was 20 years ago. So Bloomington Central Catholic paid me a debt that I'll never be able to repay them. But what I will say is this: I I want to make my present job. Uh, it's everything to me. And so I'm extremely loyal. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. But I've always had really good support. I feel like the families have been very supportive of me, my administration, and um, uh, so for me, I didn't want to I didn't want to leave happy. Sometimes we do that. Now, obviously, there's times when you got to move because either one, you're not happy, or two, um, um, maybe they're not happy with you and it's made it difficult. But me transitioning, have I had opportunities? Sure. As a younger coach, you sit there and think sometimes bigger is better. It's not always the case. Sometimes chasing those things can be, um, they can be, and i- something that's intriguing, um, but really not something that's sustainable. And I didn't want to move around a lot. My kids are happy here, and I've enjoyed it. And that's another thing about college coaching. If there's opportunities out there for that, um, I'll be honest with you. I think Christ put me where I wanted me to be because I think I could jump right into that college coaching part, and it would really hurt my family because um, I'm the type of person once I get into something, I get in all the way, and I'm going to give you everything I got. And if I had to be away from my house to make it better, I probably would do that. So, uh, high school coaching for me was the right fit. I'm not saying people that hey, I got good friends. Sean Taylor's a good friend of mine. Sean goes everywhere, man. He's been to a lot of different spots and he does it and that works for him. I think you got to ask yourself, what exactly do you want? What exactly is good for you? And so guys that move, that works for them. I don't think that's a bad thing. If that works for their family and that works for helps them move up the line, completely understand. And for me, it didn't work. It hasn't worked that way. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hear that though. I hear coaches they want to move, and I get it. I would be asked. I would be interviewing them. They wouldn't be interviewing me. I want to make sure that I go to a really solid spot. And for me, it's Central Catholic. And if I end my career here, I would be thrilled. I've been here a long time, and I've enjoyed it. And it's been a labor of love.
So I was gonna talk about like the break here, but I'm gonna pivot a little bit because that'll fit better after our next topic, like that period after Christmas, getting ready for conference, and all that. So you mentioned this kind of piqued my interest, figuring out what's best for your team and taking you a while. So I wanted to talk with you about that process here. This we kind of halfway period, we call it halftime adjustments. Um, how do you go about figuring that out for yourself and with your players? Are you trying, say, I think this will work, and you're trying it, maybe preseason, early in the season, or are you doing different things that way? Um, to not throw too much at them, but kind of figure out and narrow down what you're really good at. What's your process and thought process and I guess practice plan process to kind of figure that out for you and your staff?
Well, so I'm going to tell you this. For me, we got to be in a gym where we're getting challenged a lot because I want to find out what's working and what's not. At the end of the day, for example, if we play a team, let's say Chicago War was really good. Lewis Adams had great teams. And if you're playing Lewis's teams, even now, he's going to blow you up in terms of, hey, I like to run a lot of sets. Well, guess what? That's not going to work. He's going to make you play. And if I get in, so finding out from for us, a difficult schedule, it's going to be beneficial. So wins and losses to me in the regular season, we're going to try to be successful as long as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, you got to win and you got to learn. And if you're not learning throughout the year, you're going to learn in the postseason. And so what I want is some setbacks. I want some opportunities to know, hey, guess what? When I tell you rebounding is important, if we don't do that, we're gonna taste our own blood. Uh, and I know that sounds like a simple thing, but it's the truth. And so a schedule that will help me help the kids, our players, is going to be beneficial. Now that's going to come with some pain and some sleepless nights. So having a challenging schedule will help me figure out what can we do when the toughest games are the most important games, that regional final, that sectional championship game, when you're getting really tested, we can go back to, hey, do you remember in December we played so and so? And when I told you we had to block out and we didn't, what was that result like? or when I told you, hey, guess what? We got to take care of the basketball and we didn't, what was that result like? Kids can figure that out through a tougher schedule. And what I've found is they'll rise to the occasion. So a little secret to our success has always been look at our schedule. From a 2A standpoint, it's as good as it gets. And we want to challenge ourselves because then I do figure out, okay, we're not very good at this. And then I start honing in on it. And we're still there. I don't know exactly where we're going with our season, but I'm excited to get there. And I know that we'll figure it out. And I will work tirelessly till we do. And no alarm buttons or anything like that. I like a tough schedule. I want to figure out what we're good at and what we're bad at, and then we'll hone in on it.
So as we move into the second half of the episode, we focus on a specific topic with every coach, and we thought this was a really obviously pertinent time to talk about this topic. We've never focused on holiday tournament preparation, but I thought this would be really interesting for our listeners, especially maybe young head coaches. So um, I want to start with, when you're preparing for a Christmas tournament, we kind of talked about this off the air a little bit, but you got sometimes multiple games in a row or 2 games in a day. Um, how are you and your staff kind of scouting it? Are you preparing for multiple opponents ahead of time? Are you scouting them one at a time? When are you doing these scouts with your team? Kind of just take us through that preparation for, sometimes 2 or 3, 4 games in 4 days.
So, for example, today we've got potentially 3 different opponents for tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to play Rock Falls, and then we got 2 others that we could play in that evening. Today, I know, and this is where you need to have a supportive family. I probably got 12 hours of prep. Um, and I know that sounds crazy, and it probably is. I'll just be honest with you, it probably is. And then I got to take that 12 hours of prep. I've got to boil it down into about 15 minutes. So if you're a teacher, kids in the classroom, they're only going to recognize so much. So I'm going to watch maybe 3 games on one opponent. So I'm going to do that times 3. I got 9 games I've got to watch. Then I'm going to break those down into clips. And I mean, I will know those kids on those other teams and I'll know their actions. And none of that is going to win those games. None of that. But at least I know everything that's coming at me. Everything. And I'm going to take and boil that down. And I hopefully can help our kids on a possession or 2. And that may sound crazy, but that's how I do it. Technology is a beautiful thing, and I'm super dyslexic. So uh, being able to see it on a film and then break it down, I don't have to sit and watch it and scout it like I used to and take my thoughts and put it on a piece of paper. And so for me, I can visually do it and break it down. So the preparation in that for me is a lot. And my staff does the same thing. They're working tirelessly, but I'm kind of hands-on with that. I think it's very important. I ask my kids to do a lot, so I'm going to do a lot. And I think it's valuable. Um, the tough part is we don't know who we're going to play. So we got to assume we're going to play any of those teams. Take that into our shoot around tomorrow. I'll have a written report. I have my son actually is on my staff this year. He played at Millikan University. He got his teaching certificate last year or this semester, and he'd like to go and be a grad assistant. So I've given him the written portion. He's done a really good job with that. I have Matt Kelly. My staff jumps right in there and helps me with that. But there's a lot of preparation that'll go into that 1 hour shoot around tomorrow prior to our game. And in that shoot around it can be multiple things. It depends where I think our temperature of our team is. We've had shoot arounds that are basically like a full blown practice, where I mean I'm getting in them and we are getting after it. And then I've had shoot arounds that are more so, hey, we're just walking through where the other team and what they're going to do. So it's a little bit of a feel. I always have a paper copy followed in by clips of our opponent. Like I said, I boil those clips down to about 30. They have a very, because every kid's going to learn different, right? They're going to learn either visually or doing it or written. They can read it and see it. So I try to hit all those. That way they have the best opportunity, and I feel better about it. So I'm not quite as anxious when I go into a game. I want to be fully prepared.
So, all right, let's build on that a little bit, right? You talked about multiple games you're preparing, but now let's talk about maybe your players and like the physical part of it,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Um, you know, you play at different times, like we talked about pre-show, right? You got breaks in there. Maybe some guys are dinged up already. It's at that
Mm,
time of the season.
yep.
So are you looking in like, especially in like a multiple game setting, if you got a chance to give guys some extra rest, maybe shortening rotations a little bit? Um, you mentioned the shoot around, sometimes just walk through, sometimes getting after it. You do anything special warm ups, things like that, to where you get to that fourth day, you've played 4 or 5 games or whatever, different times, been back and forth, that your team's still feeling their best.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you this. I think it's important that your teams peak at the right time. So we've always had success later in the year. And the reason maybe that the reason that is, I've got some thoughts on why that could be. Um, but right now, I mean, I just gauge the temperature of the team. If I've got guys dinged up, I certainly am not going to get them out there live, knowing they've got to go. They've got to go that night. So that might be part of it. Again, I'm kind of the empty your bucket kind of a guy. And I know that isn't, I don't know if that's good or bad. So engagement level, I've never felt like just walking them through things have ever really helped me. Now, does that give them some knowledge of it? Of course. But if you can't go and you can't be fully out there and active, um, I'm not really fond of that. That's not had any much success in me. But again, you have to be cognitive and aware that, hey, they've got multiple games tomorrow. So keeping them fresh minded as you possibly can. But it's hard. I'd like to say there's some magic potion there, but there really isn't. When you try to make it a little unique to that group, we're going to have, if we're fortunate enough to win on Monday, I told you we're going to have some pizzas and we're going to walk them through some things for their next opponent. That's how that's going to look tomorrow. Is that the right way of doing it? I don't know. But long-term success, here's what I will tell you. I've never had a practice on a Saturday. I never have. Most coaches probably have, and they probably look at me like I'm crazy. But I'm going to tell you why I don't do that. Randy never did that at St. Joe. I think they're more fresh-minded at the end. Um, if we have a game on a Saturday, why then, yeah, we'll have a shoot around. Now, I will tell you, this year we've had 2 practices on Saturdays because we've had Monday games, which I don't like that. Um, but I want them to get away from it a little bit. I want them to be fresh-minded in the end. I want them to want to come to the gym. If it's always work and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I don't want to ever be here," that's not good. So Saturday practices, I stay away from it. Doesn't mean that I don't care. It actually means I love them, and I want them to, when we're there, we're gonna give everything we got. I told you I like to empty the bucket. I mean, I gotta see it. And I think you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of preparation. And I'm a firm believer in that. And so I guess that's kind of what we do.
So before I go on to the next question, I want to follow up with that because I couldn't agree more with you. My team, I'll be honest, we usually play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and we don't practice Friday. We will come in, we'll do the scouting report, we'll do some rehab, and everybody goes home by 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I couldn't agree more. But I want to build on that with you a little bit. So I think we all as coaches want them to peak at the end, right? And I think we all try to find that balance um, you know, practicing hard, but also, sometimes, let's be honest, coach, sometimes in January, the teams that win are just the teams that are healthy. Has nothing to do with preparation or practice or anything. It's just the teams that are healthy. So, what are maybe some things that you would advise? I know you mentioned no Saturday practice, but maybe for a young head coach, first, second year, to kind of help their team through the marathon a little bit so that they're peaking in February instead of peaking in late December.
Yeah, I mean, and we know that, that there's teams out there they played their best basketball on Thanksgiving or Christmas. That's not. I'm not all that interested in that. So I'm not trying to lose games, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not interested in that. What we want to do is make sure, hey, if I need to shorten practice, so when we are there, we're fully engaged, we're going to do it. If that means we only went an hour this day, but I got everything. They filled their cup and some, then I'm good. That makes me sleep better. They'll show me how engaged they are. Teams will go one of two ways in January. They're either going to want to be there or they're not, and their season is over. And I know that. And so January is a tough month, and you got to grind them through that. But you want to make sure that they're mentally ready to go. They're mentally still engaged. And so shortening practices, lots of shooting, making sure we're going through our fundamentals of our defense each and every day. Let's go through it. We do all the same stuff. We're just shortening everything down a little bit. I never tell the kids we're going to go shorter. Hey, we're going to go shorter or whatever. I never say that. They go hard. I feel good about it. We just move to the next drill. All of a sudden we're out an hour and a half or an hour and 15. Fine. It doesn't make any, but they're fresher at the end. And as a younger coach, I was not good at that. We were 2 hours and it didn't make any difference. 2 hours is 2 hours. They're paying me a stipend. I'm going to give them everything I got for 2 hours. And so I did that. As I aged, I'm like, this is silly. I'm grinding them to death and they don't even want to be there. So, that's no good either. So I wanted to do it a little bit different. I found some success with that.
So I want to now tie this back in. So I want to tie kind of, your Thanksgiving and Christmas tournaments into kind of the state playoffs. I think, it's awesome when we're playing non-conference and conference games and you have 2 or 3 games in a week, but that tournament feel is just a little bit different when somebody slaps a bracket up on the wall and we're all competitors and, we all want to, survive and advance kind of thing, to quote Jimmy V. What are maybe some things you can learn just from that tournament format? Not necessarily wins and losses, but just that kind of format about your team that lend itself later to a playoff kind of format.
Yeah. I think I told you earlier, I believe we have more state trophies than we do holiday classic trophies. So I don't know if I would be the right guy to not had much success in holiday tournaments for whatever reason. So I'm not, but what it does, getting a state or getting a holiday trophy and playing for those, it does give you a vibe of the state tournament. So we call it a stepping process. So step one, first game, but it's all the way to 7 steps, right? We're trying to get to 7 steps, and each step is everyone is just as important as the next. So to get to the state tournament, I got to have 7. To get through the holiday classic, I got to have 4. I guess I don't put a whole lot of focus, and I probably should. I just want to see our kids get better and learn how to compete. I want to trust that their effort is going to be great in each and every game, not just for some of the games. And I think that takes a while. And the Holiday Classic for us, it's here in town, and yes, it's got a bracket format. We would have loved to play in that championship game in front of a bigger crowd. Well, but you know, if you're not playing in that, is that a huge detriment to you at the end of the year? I don't think so. I think you get to know your team throughout, and each game is holiday classic or not. I guess I don't put that huge importance on it, and I know some coaches do. It isn't that way for me. Like I said, I'm not trying to lose any games. That isn't it. But in terms of vibe, I want to play the best people we can possibly play and find out for those, wins and learning opportunities where we're at, and then progress my team from there. And last night it didn't go our way, but here's what I do know: Quincy Notre Dame. I got a good eyeballs on them. They got a chance to trophy. That's a great experience for us because we can find out. Okay, now I can go back and show you on tape. These are some things we could do. Can we close the gap? Can we close that gap? And that's all I care about. And then how do we come back from a setback? I'm excited as heck to see how we're going to come back on Monday after a Sunday from a setback, right? Just like you and your job. I bet you have some setbacks. You got to go right back to work. I'm excited about that opportunity. And so those are the things I'm focused on right now. How that transitions to the state tournament, I'm not sure it does, to be honest with you. So have to be making something up, and I don't want to do that.
So, the original question was kind of about the scheduling, but you talked about that a lot and why you do it. So I want to kind of go back to what my original thought for the halftime is so, I'm coaching at Benedictine on the women's side. We're kind of in a break right now, right? We went out to Spokane, we had our beginning of the year. Now there's just a little bit of break, and I'm sure you have a little bit of couple days in between this tournament and then you probably start conference, I'm guessing, right? And you're going to that second part. So you've got your tough games. You talked about figuring out what your team's good at, right? So you get through these next couple games, and then what are you kind of looking at to evaluate that kind of, I guess, first half roughly of, okay, we're good at this. Are you looking at certain numbers? Are you looking at film and see what things worked,
Yep.
against different types of teams, all those things to now, like you said, be playing at your peak when it comes to state tournament time.
Yeah, so we get real intentional. So, for example, on Friday after after the holiday classic, we'll give them some time off, but we won't play until the following Friday, Saturday. We play Effingham St. Anthony on a Friday, and we transition and we play Chicago Hope on Saturday, and they're both away games. Um, and so it's from one end of the state to the other end of the state, right? And so those are two what I would call championship type games, just completely different styles. And that would be just like what you might do in the state tournament series. You're going to play a good opponent on a Friday, and you're going to have to come back and play another really good opponent on a Saturday. And that's exciting for me, is to be able to, do that transition and kind of see what we can do and how our kids will adapt in those kind of situations and progress that towards the state tournament. So I don't know if I necessarily answered what you asked, but that's how it's not yet quite conference play for us. So we've got another week before we even get into our conference play. But I want to continue to schedule some teams that are going to challenge our boys and get them where I think, hey, you know what? I really can identify now where we're at and what we need to do, and that's important to me.
So really just putting them in a different experience against different teams to kind
Mhm.
of get that
Completely
mindset of,
different type.
yeah,
Yep.
you could
Mhm.
see this in the state tournament, you could see this in state tournament and see how I react. I really like that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and I mean, there's a completely different vibe at Effingham St. Anthony and compared to
oh yeah,
Chicago Hope.
yeah,
Uh, I can promise you.
yeah, well, I,
And so,
no doubt.
um, that's gonna be a wonderful experience for our boys, and, that in itself, we'll get to learn a lot about us, and I'll learn a lot about them, and, there will be I wanna have nothing that those boys haven't seen, so we're prepared when we come to the end of the year.
John, does Hope still have a DJ? I remember when we played them when I was at Viter, they had a DJ and they had all kinds of things going. It was great.
I don't know. We went up and played Chicago Leo and one year, and they had a DJ. I was like, wow. I mean, it was rocking in there. So,
Well, and then you go to Hope and you got 700 3-point lines.
yeah, right. There you go. So,
I used to tell our girls, like, listen, you don't shoot from that one. Go
yeah,
closer. Go
yeah,
closer. I know you
it,
want
it
to, but shoot
it'll
closer.
be a good experience. We went to Chicago or a few years back,
It
and
was awesome.
I think they had a freshman student doing the book. So I learned a lot. Anyway, it was good.
Yep. All right. So coach, I know you will know, but just in case we have any new listeners, as we move into our last two segments of the show, the first one we call 30-second timeout. It's your chance to talk about any subject you want. And it could be your family, your program, something you're interested in, something you're passionate about. You can turn the tables on Todd and I and ask us a question. This is kind of, as Todd has coined before, your dime, your dance floor.
All right. Well, what I was thinking about here is support system. I've been blessed. I've had a really good support system. My family has fully supported my journey when it's not easy. Sometimes you call it the precious present. Sometimes I'm not always present. I'm here, but my focus is in other spots. And my family has been supportive through my career all the way through. And without that, I wouldn't have had any career at all coaching basketball. So many things they've sacrificed so that I can thrive. Um, and I would say you need to embrace them. At the end of the day, I tell our boys, your family is so important. Um, without that, I wouldn't be here. And to have a wonderful support system, I never take that for granted. Um, the people that are around you will be around you at the very end, and sometimes we lose track of that as coaches. I know I do, and I think about what they've done for me. I think that coaches need to focus on that. There's a time that you got to put those that huddle clip away. You put your and just be present. And I would challenge coaches with their support system. Don't lose track of that. There's nothing more important than your family. And um, and while it's hard when we're in the heat of the battle, you've got to find time for them. And that's probably been the difference in my career is having good people around me, whether it's my immediate family or my friends, but to have people that support and been around me. And then so for me, for my 30-second timeout, I would be telling you, spend more time with your family. You'll never regret it. And you'll be a better coach for it.
I totally agree. My wife and I were just looking at our calendar we have on the wall, and she's like, "Oh, you're not gonna be home for dinner a lot this month," you know?
Yeah.
My wife calls it, like, once it gets to basketball season, basketball brain. She's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you got basketball brain. Alright, I got it." But, we wanna go to, quick hitters here, kind of random rapid fire questions.
Yep.
Answer any way you want here. Alright, first one. Are you, more of a like to celebrate Christmas or Thanksgiving?
I like I like Christmas. I like Christmas. We have some traditions in our family. They work out well. We always celebrated Christmas with my immediate family, my mom and dad on Christmas Eve. It was something we did. It was special. It was nothing but cheese and crackers and sitting around the fire talking. And then my wife's family, they always did stuff on Christmas. And so that Christmas was us. So anyway, yeah, Christmas.
All right, this is a funny one. A gift you wish Santa would give you as a coach.
Oh man. Yeah, here's what I'm gonna tell you, and this is kind of, in all seriousness. I wish I was better at writing. Yeah, I mean, I told you I was dyslexic, so to take what I've got in here and get it on a piece of paper, boy, I wish I could do that better, but there's been some real advances in technology. You can voice to text and all that kind of stuff. There's so many guys out there smarter than me, and, but if I could take that one, I'd tell Santa, "Can you get rid of that dyslexia?" That'd be awesome.
Alright, if you didn't have basketball over the
Ooh,
break, what would you most want to do?
wow. So I got to do this, and you did too. You started this during COVID,
Yep.
and, so we didn't have basketball for a year. And I was like, "Wow, this is what happens during holiday breaks here?" I mean, I had
Right.
no idea.
Right.
Um, uh, so, I would spend just time with my family. I mean, the reality is, there's so much fun that they have that when I'm not around and I'm so blessed they get to, like games, board games, and just, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know that. I'm working. So like I told you, I would just enjoy them more. And during COVID, that was only positive. I was like, wow, we just hung out. It was kind of fun. Um, so I would just hang out with my family. That's what I would do. We have a blast together and we can have a blast doing nothing. So I would just spend that time with them.
It's so funny you say that. We had, when we were at our family Christmas, a bunch of people were like, "We should travel next year. We should go here. We should go here. We'll take the whole Christmas week." And I said, "All right, well, good to see you guys, but I won't see you next Christmas then."
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Uh, all right, what is the best advice you've ever gotten as a coach?
Yeah. So I've had great mentors. I had Randy Walken and Craig Voigt. Craig was my high school basketball coach. And here's what I tell you: if you can organize it, do it. Um, and that's important. So we probably, I don't know, spend too much time on this. Like I really want them to sit in a certain way when we're in a timeout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My point guards to the left, all the way down to my 5-man. I'm going to organize our kids. I'm going to have them huddled up, and they are engaged in our huddle. I've got a camera on them. We're going to practice it. I practice how our kids are coming on and off the floor. So we practice that. We practice cleaning up the bench. I show them, hey, here's how you're going to run out before and after games. Um, Things that we can do like that are important. Organize it. Hey, the bus has got trash on it. Show me how you're cleaning that up. Um, I, all the things that you think are simple and easy aren't simple and easy. I'm going to organize it. So if it's worth doing, let's make sure it's organized. That way the kids know expectations. They know what it's going to look like. How many times have we seen, and it amazes me, when teams come out on the floor, they walk out. I'm like, oh my goodness, I was about ready to have an out of body experience. I'm like, that is so controllable. You are going to jog on and off the floor, where you sit after a game, things like that. That is so important to me because those are controllables, right? I can't control if you can make a basket. I can't do so. But those things that mean so much, control the controllables. And so organize what you can. You'll never regret it.
All right. What is a concept or a scheme or something you're looking at using with your team that you haven't used yet?
Oh, good. So I'm excited for the shot clock. We're going to use it actually in league play. How that it's intriguing to me. Um, you know, I am a constant learner, and I want to get better as a coach. So those concepts in terms of like, is it a specific concept? No, but I've lost a game this year because of the shot clock. Just don't know it that well. And so we're going to be able to utilize the shot clock, get more involved with that during our league play. I'm excited about that. Um, I'm going to try to figure out, fouling, when can you foul, zone pressing, um, things of that nature. So there's so much more I feel like I can learn. So it's exciting to me, figuring out that shot clock. So I don't know if that's necessarily a concept,
Oh, it is. It definitely is.
but it's
It's skill.
something I'm interested in.
There's a lot of different things you got to think
Yeah.
about, right? You can
Yeah.
extend games. You can go two
Yep.
for ones. You
2 for
can
1s. Yep.
zone
So
press, run down the
yeah.
clock, see if they have a set actually to run when the clock's running low.
Yeah. I think it's gonna, I tell people I'm not on the last hole, but I'm certainly on the back 9, and this might keep me around a little bit longer just because I'm excited about the clock. I can't wait to learn more about it. I can't wait to scheme for it. It's gonna be fun.
All right. So if we've never asked this, and I think it's kind of a funny one. As a coach, we take so many bus rides. What's like your personal, like, what do you do on these long bus rides? What's like your bus routine? Like for you personally, I just think we've never talked about this with anyone.
Okay, so you may have asked the wrong guy this one. I drive the bus. Um, so I drive it there and back. And I'm gonna tell you, I gotta be careful what I say, but it's gotta be dangerous. The way back, I'm driving and I'm a driver's ed teacher, right? And I'm sitting there driving, and let's say we're coming back from Totopolis to Central Catholic. Uh, that's a 2.5 hour drive. And all of a sudden I'm like, man, we're back at the school. I'm it's like, I don't, it just got, my mind is engaged in the game and I've got to keep it focused on the road. So I'm driving and, I challenge myself all the time, like, hey, we can't be thinking about that play. I've got to get the bus back safely. Right. So for me, it's been a lot of driving, on those road trips and, staying focused on the task at hand, which is to get those kids back safely. My mind could easily race into the game or a bad call or, hey, I could have done this better. But I wish I had I wish I could give you something more than that. We stop and kids usually get me Mike and Ike's, and I'm pounding Mike and Ike's on the way home, and that's me driving. So.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the stories. They were really good, and I really enjoyed your candor. I think sometimes the best way to answer is just to say, I don't know the answer. So thank you again for your time.
Well, we really appreciate what you do for coaches across the state. It's a podcast that I look forward to and listen to throughout the year. And I want to let you know people recognize your hard work, your passion, and enthusiasm about high school basketball, and it means a lot to a lot of people. So keep up the good work and keep doing what you do.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast in partnership with the IBCA. Please be sure to rate us on whatever platform you are listening and give us a 5-star rating. For more show content and updates, please follow us on Twitter at After the Timeout. As always, thank you for listening. Tune in next time for more content on the court, off the court, and anything in between.